Let's get started with the player stat system. We're going to create a new folder and name this player stats underscore system. Now I want to make a modular stat system. It's going to have a lot of moving components. This allows us to easily go and debug different stat functionalities and add additional stat functionalities instead of having to comb through a large amount of code trying to figure out what went wrong where. So we're going to go and make a expandable stat system as well. I already have a tutorial on this on my channel in a couple different tutorial series, but I'm going to walk you through it here as well. So we're going to first go ahead and create a enumeration. And this would be e underscore player stats. And this is going to be the list of all the different type of stats that our stat system is going to keep a hold of. First is going to be our health stat. Next, we have our stamina stat. We have our player level. I'm going to add our player level to the stat system as well, and also the XP and everything is going to be here. So we're going to have a total XP gained stat. Also going to have our current XP, and the last stat is going to be XP to level up. This is the amount of XP that is required to go to the next level. One of the reasons I'm adding all of these values to our enumeration is because when we save our data to our game instance, it'll be easy for us to save all of this information and retrieve it at a later time, instead of having to manually update our game instance every single time for each and every single stats. You'll see how that works in just a moment. So let's go ahead and go back to our content drawer, and we're going to create a new structure. And the structure is going to be s underscore player stats. We're going to open this up. We're going to have three variables in our structure. The first one is going to be the stat itself. And this would be our enumeration that we just created, player stats enumeration. Our second variable is going to be the base value. And this is going to be a type float. And then we're going to have the max value. The max value is an optional variable that we're going to add. Not all the stats is going to utilize the max value, but the base value is going to be our main indicator of what the value of given stat is. So let's go ahead and save this. And last, we're going to create a data table. If you go ahead and search for a data table, you'll get the data table. And for the structure, we're going to go ahead and select our player stats as our structure. And this data table is going to be named dt underscore player stats. Let's go ahead and open this up. I'm going to add in my first row. Our first row is going to be for the health. The base health that the player is going to start with is 100. And the max health that they're going to start with is 100 as well. And the second stat is going to be for a stamina. The base stamina, again, is going to be 100, and their max stamina is going to be 100. For health and stamina, the max value is very important because we need to cap the health and stamina so it doesn't go above our maximum amount of 100, because we're going to be giving the player the option to drink potions, which will heal them. When it's healing, we don't want that healing to exceed the maximum amount that the player could have. So that's why this max health and the max stamina is very important to have that value. The player level, I'm going to have the players start at level 1, and I'm going to leave the max value empty because it's not relevant to the player level. The next item on our list is the total XP gained. I'm going to leave it at 0. And the next one is our current XP. We're going to leave it at 0. And also the XP to level up, I'm going to leave it at 0. The reason why I'm leaving it 0 is because this is going to be determined in-game. We're going to do some calculations to determine how much XP the player require to go to the next level, and we're going to update this value in-game dynamically. Now we're done with all of this. Let's go ahead and create a component that's going to handle all of these stats and all the changes to the stats as well. So we're going to create a new blueprint class, and this would be of type actor component, and name this bpc underscore player stat manager. And I'm going to go ahead and save everything first. And then I'm going to go back to my third person. And I'm going to immediately add this to my third person as a component. Player stat manager. So this way it's initialized and it's going to start working right off the get-go. I'm going to go ahead and open up our player stat manager. And we're going to create different functions inside of this player stat manager that's going to be easy for us to call out from different blueprints outside of this player stat manager. So we can update stamina, update health, and all of those stuff. But the first thing that we want to do is we are going to create a player stat map. It's a variable that it's going to hold all of our information. So when we save the game, we just have to save that map instead of having to save individual variables. If you just save that map, then all of your data will be saved all together. So let's go ahead and create a new variable. And this would be named as stat map. And this would be of type E underscore player stats. This is our enumeration. And also it's going to be a type of map. And this map type is going to be our structure, which is going to be S underscore player stats. So this way the map can take each and every single line from our enumeration and have the corresponding values saved as the structure. Now we need to first initialize the stat map with all of the stuff that we have in our DT player stats data table. So let's go ahead and create a new function. And this would be player stat underscore init basically for initializing it. So here we're going to go ahead and do get data table row names. And this would be our player stats. And off of this out row, I'm going to do a for each loop. For each and every single line item that is in this data table, I want to go ahead and get the data table row information. So that will be get data table row. And I'll plug this array element in here and also select player stats as the data table. Now this out row basically contains all of these values. Like for health, it will contain 100, 100. For stamina, it's going to contain 100, 100, and so on and so forth. So now we want to take this out row, each and every single one of them, and add it to the stat map. So drag the stat map, do a get, and then we're going to do an add function. And here we can connect this to the row found. And also this out row, we can connect it directly to this structure here. And also we need to define which one of these enumeration does this structure value corresponds to. So drag off of this out row, do a quick break here, and then the stat value, we're just going to plug it in here just like this. And we can hide unconnected pins here. Compile and save. Now what this will do is it will take each and every single line item and the values, the base value and the max value, and it's going to add it to our stat map. And off of this, we're going to just do a return node. Compile and save. Now when the game starts, event begin play, we want to go ahead and call in this player stat init. So it initializes it right away. Now one thing you have to keep in mind is when this function runs, it's going to take these values, not the updated values of the player. The player could be level 50, but this is only set for player level 1. So this is going to initialize as player level 1. When we build in the game save function for our player stats, we're going to initialize the stat first. Then we're going to go to our game instance and retrieve the updated stats, and then we're going to update our stat map later. Now let's create functions for updating health and updating stamina. So first function would be update stat dash health. Here I'm going to select our update stat health, add in an input. This would be the amount that we need to increase it by, and then this is going to be a float. Drag in our stat map, and then we're going to do a find. And we have our health stat, and we're going to do a boolean because the find always comes with a boolean to ensure that we have found this specific stat. Connect this update health to the branch here. Once the health stat is found, then we want to drag off of this structure and we want to break it. And the base value, we want to now drag off of this and then add a plus. And then we're going to need to add this amount to it. There you go. And the result, we need to update the stat map. To update the stat map, we're just going to drag in our stat map. We're going to drag off of the stat map and then search for add. And connect this add to the true function. And drag off of this value here. And then we're going to go ahead and make the player stats and then connect the base value here. So this will take our existing base value, add the amount that it needs to be added, and then it's going to add to the base value. Now the problem here would be if the player's maximum health is going to be at 100, and if you add this new amount, let's say your potion just healed you for 20 points, and you're already at 100, this is going to allow the player to have 120 health. We don't want that. We want to cap it at a specific amount. So instead of connecting this directly, we're going to drag off of this, and we're going to do what is called a clamp float. What this will do is take the value and it will set a maximum amount and a minimum value. And then that return value would be what we're going to connect to our new health stat. The minimum can go as low as 0. That's perfectly fine. We're only worried about the max. We just need to drag in our max value and connect it here. This way, our base value will never exceed the maximum amount. And this is good. And also in our input, we're going to add in a max amount. This is only necessary if in your game, the player is going to be gaining additional health as they level up. So I'm going to go ahead and add this max amount function here as well for your game. Totally optional. I'll use it in this game. And if you don't want to use it, you can just ignore that max amount. To update the max amount, it's very simple. This is our base stat, like the current value right now. We're going to drag off of this and we're going to do an add. And we're going to add this max amount to it. And then this would be connected to our max value. Just like that. That's how simple it is to do the max amount. All right, I just added some reroutes to make it look all pretty. And then off of this, we're just going to go ahead and do a return node. Just like so. All right, so that is basically our update health stat. So anytime you call in the update health, for example, if you just call in the update health, you can give it a amount to increase or even reduce. Even if you want to affect the player, like reducing their health, you can just put it as -10, and this will reduce the player's health. Whenever they take damage, you can just use as -10. So you don't have to create a new function to reduce the health and a new function to have to increase the health. You can just have one function do all of that. And if you leave the max amount at 0, then your max amount will not increase. It'll just stay as it is. So now to do our stamina, it's exactly the same thing. We're just going to right click on it, duplicate it, and then instead of health, we're just going to call it as stamina. And we just got to change 3 values. Number 1 is this health. We need to set this to stamina. And over here where it says health, we need to set this to stamina. And the make player stats, we just need to set this to stamina. That's it. It is as simple as this. Now we have 2 separate functions to update the health or update the stamina. I'm going to improve this and then also add a third function to further improve the calling of these 2 functions. So here I'm going to create a new function named update player stat. And here I'm going to have an input, and this would be our stat. And then of type e_player stats. And this is going to be the amount and also the max amount. Make both of these a float. And here I'm going to drag off of the stat and do a switch. And the switch function basically gives me an execution pin for each and every single item in our enumeration. We're only going to be updating our health or stamina using this function. So I'm going to drag in our update health, drag in our update stamina, plug the stamina in here and the health in here. And for the amount, we're just going to drag in the amount. Let's do get amount and also get max amount. And plug this in here just like so. So what this does is instead of having to remember 2 separate functions to update health and stamina, now the player can just call in the update player stat and they can choose. I want to update the stamina or I want to update the health, and then they can send in the function. Again, these are all modular functions. You can choose to do however you want. I'm just adding all of these 3 just so that I can give you more options to make it much more easier in your game. So that's it for the health and the stamina. Let's work on our XP function.